Well, it seems we actually had some rain in the night. When I looked through the trail camera this morning, you could see that it had rained for certainly a couple of hours during the night. Doing some weeding because I've got some weed seedlings have popped through, so just get rid of those. And then I'm thinking it might be time for a July tour. Well, something I have noticed since the rain last night is that the leeks I sowed 2 days ago are now starting to stand up. There is a few that are still laying, but once the roots start to get established, they will pull them upright. What I do think I need to do though is I need to create some protection. I need to do some more hoops and netting, because by the time we get to September, that's when the leaf miner grubs start appearing, so obviously I don't want them attacking these. I lost a whole crop a couple of years ago, well actually a couple of years ago and last year as well, so I don't want that happening again. But these are the first lot I sowed about a month ago, and they are actually putting on growth now. So, yeah, I'm pleased with that. Well, that was a bit fiddly, but I am really pleased that's done now, because now I know my leeks are going to be protected, so there'll be no allium leaf miner grubs destroying them like the previous 2 lots of leeks that I've grown. So hopefully over the winter and early spring we'll have a good crop. Well, I've brought you into the greenhouse because look what I've discovered. My aubergine, I think this is Black Beauty, has got its first flower. So I'm chuffed about that, that's very exciting. So while I'm in the greenhouse, I might as well show you all my chilies and tomatoes. So this is the jalapeno. I've already harvested one, that was a whopper. I've got a start of another one here. This is my Apache. I'm not convinced though. I've grown Apache for many years and it's never been as small as this. The leaves are small, the fruit are small, so whether this is a miniature version or whether the labels were mixed up in the nursery, I don't know. Next to it is the yellow bell pepper, and they are getting bigger. So next to that I have the Cheyenne chili peppers, and they're colouring up nicely, and there's lots of fruit on that one. I don't know if you can see it because I've got all my onions as a backdrop, but yeah, that's got lots of fruit on it. This is a Scotch bonnet, and that is now producing its first fruit. This is a cayenne pepper. Now I sowed some seeds for these weren't the starters, so I'm pretty impressed with that because that's quite a sizable fruit. I've got 2 of them. This one, it's got flowers at the top but it hasn't produced any fruit yet. And next to it is the snack pepper, and that has got fruits forming. So I'm quite pleased with the selection this year, and they all seem quite happy in here. Oh, I've got onions there drying out, and up here too. Then if we have a look at my tomatoes, this is a Roma, and it has flowers on it, but no fruit yet. Next to it is I think it's a Super Marmande. Yes, Super Marmande, and that has got a fruit. So some more there, and flowers as well. Moving along, this is the Outdoor Girl. It's not one I'd heard of before. It's got huge leaves. It's completely different to the others, but it has lots of flowers. And if I come down, I've got my first fruit there. Next is the Shirley, which is pretty standard for me. Usually grow this one every year. It's a vigorous grower and it's doing well. And I've got some fruit hiding around the back there. And finally, I've got the Alicante. Now I think I might have given it a little bit too much water because the leaves are curled on that, which they haven't on the others. So I think I've been a bit too enthusiastic, but that will be okay. It is fruiting. And this one has got purple basil in the pot. The Shirley and the Outdoor Girl have got the green basil. Oh, I've just touched that and I can smell it, it's gorgeous. So yeah, so that's my greenhouse. So staying with the tomatoes, this is my Tigerella. These are being grown outside and I grew these from seed, and they've got tomatoes at each level and they're doing really well. So I think they'll ripen soon, but I love the stripes, hence the name Tigerella. Okay, so staying with the tomatoes, I wanted to show you these. This is in my bed of all sorts. This is the bed that had all the broad beans. Now it's got bits of everything, which I'll go through in a minute. But I've got, if I can use this as a pointer, I've got 2 suckers here. Now I put these in the ground with no roots. They were literally just cut straight off the plant, popped them in the ground and kept them watered. They're still droopy, but the one nearest to me, this one here, is actually starting to pick up now. They've not died off, so they are definitely growing roots, and I reckon in another week they'll probably perk right up and then start growing. The further 3, these here, now these were done differently. These were again suckers from plants in the greenhouse, but I cut them and put them in water to root, and once they'd got a good set of roots I popped them in the ground and they're starting to pick up as well. But I just wanted to see which ones fared the best, and I think, to be honest, they're all going to do well eventually. It's just the ones that had the roots had a head start. So if we look at this bed, I've got here, this end, I've got the 2 broad bean plants that I saved, and they've actually got beans growing. That was worth saving, even if it's just 1 meal's worth. So next to the tomatoes there is a row of purple basil, and that is starting to get established now. And then I've got a row of marigolds, and then in the slug collars I've got more Lola Rosso, and then after that there is rainbow chard and purple and common sage. Now before I leave this area, I've got 5 buckets of potatoes. Now the 3 nearest are the Charlotte, which had the early blight, so the foliage was all cut away, and they've been sitting there for best part 3 weeks now for the skins to toughen up. So I may well do a reveal of one of those buckets at the end of this tour. And then the 2 buckets nearest the greenhouse, I had, like most of the nation, I had a couple of potatoes in the kitchen cupboard that had started to sprout. So rather than put them in the compost, I've put them in these 2 buckets, and if they grow, I may have some potatoes for Christmas. So moving on to the next bed is where I have my courgette plants. I've got 2 of these. They're both doing really well. They've been productive. I've been harvesting courgettes for a few weeks now. There's a couple in there. And if I move across, you may see there's some in here as well. So they're doing very well. And what I've done with these is I've removed all the lower leaves to increase the airflow, because I don't want to get powdery mildew, and there is a risk of that now because it's warm weather. The soil is quite often dry, but if we have small showers then the leaves are wet, and that is a good environment for the powdery mildew to grow. And I've noticed today I've got lots of ladybirds, so that's a good sign. The runner beans have got a lot of flowers on them, and they're just starting to set now. This is the Scarlet Empire, which is an improved version of the Scarlet Emperor. So back to the courgette bed. There's another ladybird. Basking in the sun. So there's also bush beans in this bed as well. So I've got 2 pongo, and a pongo down here. I need to harvest these, but they've got quite a lot of beans on. I'm harvesting them every day. And next to them, there's a purple queen with flowers on that. I have a bucket of carrots. These are the top weight. There's none ready yet. And then this is my strawberry bed. I've trimmed each plant back. They've had a good feed. And I noticed yesterday that they're starting to put out runners. So I should be pegging them down in pots soon for next year. So between the strawberries and the summer house is my little seating area. I quite often sit here and have my breakfast. But these tubs have been amazing. I just love the colour combination. So the pond's doing well, but it does need a top up. I haven't collected any rainwater, so I need to fill a bucket and then leave it 24 hours for all the chlorine to disperse before I top it up, but I'm happy with that. The clematis is doing really well. It's grown right to the top of this trellis now. But it does have a little friend. That stinging nettle's got to come out. This little corner, which is predominantly red, so I've got these nasturtiums. I've got the red skin dahlia. That was from the seeds that Susan sent me. So if you're watching Susan, they're doing really well. And then this is the salvia, the hot lips. So all the broccoli and the cauliflower settled in nicely. Now there are holes in the leaves, and something Ali said when I planted these, that to be careful that there weren't any little tiny caterpillars underneath. But I had picked over them and there was absolutely nothing. But what I have done is I've taken photos of all the plants, and I check them daily to make sure there's no new holes, and there isn't. The holes are getting bigger, but then the leaves are getting bigger. But no, they don't seem to be under attack, so I'm happy about that. So this is my fig, this is the brown turkey. Bob's still growing. It's doing nicely in there. So this bed is where all the sweet corn is, and as you can see, I've got all the tassels now, so they're developing all the cobs. So looking very strong. I've got a couple of the cobs, they're actually getting quite large. There's that one, and this one down here. So I come round every morning and I give them a good shake to help to pollinate them. But yeah, they're doing really well. I'm very pleased with those. I'm going to move through here. These are all my French climbing beans. So I've got Golden Gate. So I should be ready to pick some more of these. On this side, I've got my cobra. Through here's my little apple tree. And I was supposed to remove all the fruit, but because I netted it, I never got in there. So it's got two little apples. But it seems quite happy. That's Ellison's orange. Some mini buddleias. Put this in flower. It's really pretty. The rhubarb is an absolute giant. Need to thin that out a bit, I think. And if I turn around, sweet peas. I'm picking these daily. I picked a load yesterday afternoon, so they're waiting for the next flourish. And then I've got my Kent Blue. I think they're nearly finished. I've collected some of the pods to save the seed for next year. This is the ambassador, but look, the pigeons have had all this. But I've had a few peas off of there, and I'm quite happy with that. There's a few pods. This is my mixed bed of odds and ends. That seems to be doing okay.